We begin with all eyes will be set on the Kenyan Court of Appeal tomorrow, where doctors filed a case against the jailing of their 7 union officials. The case will be heard against the backdrop of mounting pressure from various quarters to have the medics released.
And as KTN News reporter Timothy Otieno now tells us, there is a looming paralysis in all health facilities, including private hospitals, after doctors in private hospitals threatened to down their tools starting midnight tomorrow.
For a ministry that provides one of the most crucial services, healthcare, the men in charge at Sophia House have found themselves in the limelight for some wrong reasons. First, the alleged loss of some 5.3 billion shillings set aside for curative services such as HIV/AIDS and the procurement of portable clinics. The latest, the doctors' strike, with accusations that wrangles between the Health Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Cleopa Mailu, and his Principal Secretary, Dr. Nicholas Muraguri, are stalling mediation talks over the doctors' pay dispute.
There is infighting in the Ministry of Health. Na mimi naomba Uhuru Kenyatta, ambaye alinipa pesa ya kuongeza hao mshahara, aingilie wizara, separate waziri wake na Principal Secretary.
Well, according to Mailu, who appeared before the Senate Committee on Health, it may not be wrangling, but the Cabinet Secretary and his PS are definitely not reading from the same page. On Monday last week, Mailu appointed Muraguri team leader of the ministry's mediation team in the doctors' pay dispute. But 2 days later, Muraguri declined to take up the role.
I received a memo from the Principal Secretary, whose subject is nominees to represent the Ministry of Health, addressed to me. And that memo said, in reference is made to your letter, reference that of dated 6 February 2017, copy attached. Due to other national engagement, I wish to nominate Mr. Francis Mushimi, Secretary Administration, to be the team leader in the doctor strikes deliberation.
Are you in command of the Ministry of Health? Is the PS responding to your commands as the CS?
In the management and in administration, we call that insubordination. That doesn't mean fighting. When an individual chooses to be insubordinate, I wouldn't baptize that and saying they are wrangles. And I want us to focus. Having read that statement,
in the memo to Mailu, Muraguri did not outline what national engagements drew him away from efforts to try and end the doctor's strike. Was voter registration apathy in Nyeri one of them? On the day he was appointed, Muraguri had accompanied retired General Julius Karangi to Nyeri, where they met political leaders in a campaign to get the leaders to mobilize locals to register as voters. National duties aside, Francis Mushimi, who was appointed by Muraguri to take up his role in the mediation team, did not play the part.
In fact, on the last day of the talks on Saturday, the government sent even more junior officials. The one who had been sent, called Mushimi, didn't show up, claimed he was sick. And so they sent somebody else who said he has no authority to make a decision.
The doctors' strike, now in its 3rd month, has led to a crisis in public hospitals. With the doctors' union officials now behind bars, eyes will be on Mailu and Muraguri and whether they will find common ground in efforts to end the crisis. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
So apologies, of course, that is a story by Rita Tinina highlighting the intrigues at Sophia House. Let's now take you to Timothy Otieno's story, where all eyes will be set on the Kenyan Court of Appeal tomorrow, where doctors filed a case against the jailing of their 7 union officials. The case will be heard against the backdrop of mounting pressure from various quarters to have the medics released.
Barely 14 hours after 7 officials of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union began their 30-day jail sentence, an avalanche of reactions would begin taking shape. First on the hot seat would be the man tasked to head the health ministry, whose unsuccessful interventions to have the crisis solved has seen Kenyans go 72 days without much-needed services from medical doctors. While facing a Senate Health Committee desperate to find answers, the Cabinet Secretary came under sharp criticism from its members, some of whom now demand his resignation.
And you are not making proper use of your office and the authorities that you have been given by this government, and you have failed us. And for that reason, I want to say that if this negotiation does not end and Kenyans continue to suffer, there's no need of you being in the office. You would rather step aside and allow the country to move in a proper way. We are not happy, and I'm not happy.
I will do whatever I say within my powers to ensure I bring our colleagues to the table. And I know I cannot bring them to the table from prison. So allow me to get the brief and the direction we take.
Opposition leaders visiting some of the Kenya medical practitioners, pharmacists and dentists union officials insist the crisis is slowly turning into a catastrophe for a country so close to the polls.
They have been separated for purposes of torturing them so that they can break down and steer away from course. And our coming here is a clear indication of support for their cause.
The reactions would not only come from legislators, but also health professionals who, through the Kenya Medical Association, have now revoked Health CS Cleopa Mailu and Principal Secretary Nicholas Muraguri's membership from the association for 1 year, accusing them of, quote, disgracing the association.
We demand that the President of the Republic immediately sacks the cabinet and principal secretaries who we consider to be collectively responsible for this crisis.
This court declines to review its orders sentencing the applicants to 1 month jail term.
The jailing of the 5 men and 2 women, now dubbed as martyrs of health reform by their membership, has also seen medics working in private hospitals declare a 48-hour complete shutdown of all medical services in the country in solidarity with the 7 officials.
And from midnight today, they are not going to be at work.
We urge our members to seek our general public to seek health care elsewhere.
Giving 40% increase to doctors to return to work and ignoring loopholes that continue to perpetuate impunity in the health sector is what we are refusing.
The officials are now banking their hopes tomorrow on the Court of Appeal, set to hear an application filed by their lawyers to have the sentencing overturned, even as the long-standing stalemate in the health sector persists. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
Away from the doctor's strike and its impact, the voter registration exercise in Kenya will continue for at least another 2 days after a court issued an order against its closure. This came on the same day the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, said it will appeal against a ruling that nullified the contract for the supply of ballot papers. And as our Patrick Amimo now reports, legal challenges are now threatening to throw the IEBC election program into total disarray.
Before the court decision to keep the exercise going for 2 more days, Kenyans are addicted to the last-minute rush, mobbed voter registration centers on what was expected to be the last day. The first 3 weeks of the exercise witnessed a low voter turnout, with the electoral body and political class blaming it on voter apathy. We sampled a few explanations on the last-minute rush.
Nimekuwa nimeshikwa na shikamana huko na huko, kazi kikazi ya wenyewe. Hakuna nafasi.
We are actually overwhelmed. The numbers keep on growing as the day goes by.
Hawa watu wetu wengine wajao kupata nafasi. Na saa hii hata wengine wanapata nafasi, mtu anapata 1 hour, arudi akikuja hapa line ni mrefu.
If we did it a little bit earlier, it would have been easier because today there are so many people here.
Watu watangulia kuja mapema. Shughuli za mapema ni mzuri. Kama sasa tunaona umati wa watu imejaa hapa, kuna mpinyano, hiyo msongamano ya watu, tena inachukua muda mrefu.
On Monday, activist Okio Mutata rushed to court seeking to stop the IEBC from closing the voter listing. Omutata argues many eligible voters risked being disenfranchised due to discrimination in the issuance of national identification cards, which is a requirement for enlisting. Justice Chacha Mwita has issued an interim order restraining IEBC from closing registration of voters until Thursday this week, when the case filed by Omutata against IEBC, Directorate of Immigration and Registration of Persons, and the Attorney General will be heard. On Monday, High Court Judge George Odunga quashed a contract that had been signed by IEBC Chief Executive Ezra Chiloba, allowing a Dubai-based firm to supply ballot papers, election results declaration forms, and poll register. The judge ordered IEBC to start afresh the tender process of procuring ballot papers. The commission wants to move to the Court of Appeal to challenge Odunga's ruling.
The people should be shocked at the new 7 commissioners. This secretariat was present. They knew very well that procurement rules were not followed. So what is the surprise? The issue at stake for now, I've seen they are intending to go to appeal. The duration and the life of an appeal will take another 2-3 months. Where does the elections of 2017 remain?
IEBC is still embroiled in a case filed by the opposition code that blocked KPMG firm from carrying out a forensic audit of the 2013 voters register to remove ghost voters. The audit was to start mid last month, but the opposition argues the tendering process was not transparent and KPMG lacks professional capacity to audit elections registers.
We are fearing that if the timelines and the legal risks persist, there's a real risk that elections being conducted on the 8th of August may become a real challenge.
This year, depending on how the elections process is conducted, there is a great potential to plunge our country back into violent conflict, as was witnessed in post-2007 election violence.
Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
Kenyan civil servants seeking to run in the 2017 elections have earned themselves an extra 1-month income.
This comes after the High Court sitting in Kericho extended orders allowing the civil servants to remain in office until the court hears and determines a case before them later this month.
Murimi Mwangi now reports from Kericho.
As campaigns reach fever pitch ahead of party nominations, some slated for as early as next month. Justice Njage Marete, sitting at the Kericho Labor Relations Court, has extended orders barring the country's electoral body, IEBC, from disqualifying aspirants who did not resign as civil servants by Tuesday, February 7th, until a case before him is determined.
It was intended that this court deals with all matters touching on employment and labor relations from the onset, and this still remains the position.
But much as we appreciate that. In the petition, a Kipkelion civil servant, Eric Cheriot, had challenged a section of the Elections Act which requires civil servants to resign 6 months to the polls. Cheriot argued that the law is discriminatory as it allows state officers, from members of county assemblies to the president, to continue enjoying their salaries and allowances until the election day, while civil servants, that is government employees, are rendered jobless during the 6 months. Marete ruled that the Labour Court has jurisdiction to hear the dispute and set the date for the full hearing on the 27th of this month.
The respondents be and are hereby awarded 4 days to, upon service, make, file and serve response written submissions in this course.
This essentially means that serving civil servants will still earn their February salaries, as the case is likely to drag into March. Now, with a high number of county chief executive officers and key government technocrats eyeing elective positions in the 2017 elections, today's ruling is no doubt music to the ears of civil servants, as it not only earns them an extra month's income, but also creates a loophole which could be used to divert public funds into the campaigns. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Kericho.
Welcome back to KTN Prime. Daoud Abdullahi Dimbil's family in Garissa is one of the many fighting to cope with the dry spell. 4 of his 7 children are living with disability, presenting deeper challenges for them.
Now, Garissa County is at the alarm drought phase and one step away from the emergency phase. Here now is Dorcas Wangira exploring the effect on the affected children.
The breaths of a child and an inward gaze into the dry spell is an all too familiar image in Garissa County. Her father tells us her name is Zamzam. She's only 2 years old, one of the many children at the very fringes of a prevailing dry spell. Handaro location is part of Ijara, Garissa County. In July and October 2016, an early warning was sounded. Pastoral areas were to experience the worst food security outcomes as the dry season progressed, far worse than the drought of 2011. The natural option for this pastoral community was to move somewhere greener, but this time families are moving farther and farther, past the already dried and drying water points of Fafi and Ijara, to the less stressed areas of Masalani and beyond. But not everyone can move at the same pace. Many of those who are left behind cannot afford to shift or are too weak to survive the commute. 48-year-old Daoud Abdullahi and his 30-year-old wife Aslia Bare have a harder time providing for their family. They have 7 children to feed. 4 are disabled. Amina, aged 11, Buho, aged 8, Faiza, aged 5, 4-year-old Mahat, Zamzam, aged 2, Nasri, aged 1, and an elder sibling in school.
I thank God for my children as they are. I thank God for them. But sometimes other children bully them when playing. I have been to the hospital in Handaro. They keep referring me to larger hospitals. I can't take them there. It's too expensive.
The World Health Organization status update of 2017 states the prevalence of acute malnutrition in Garissa, Samburu, Tana River and Wajir at 10 to 14%, which translates to at least 1 in every 10 is malnourished. Dawood's family validates this. The lack in dietary fiber, protein, vitamin and minerals is most evident in Zamzam, who is not as swift and able to compete for the bought food rations with her siblings. But it has a heavier cost. The children cannot go to school without wheelchairs. The children here have had to grow up pretty fast, walking long stretches in search of water, a daunting task that costs them an education and the joys of being children. Since the dry spell, attendance at the Sangailu Primary School has gone down from 550 students to 350 to 400 on average.
In terms of performance, and actually most of the children have shifted with their parents. Also, it's a very big drop of the enrollment.
I'm fairly convinced that if they try to engage into agriculture, they can be able to do better. I know, of course, there are some challenges on the way, but once they start, or somebody can start as a pilot project, and the others will follow at the end of the day.
I want my children to study and become either teachers or doctors.
Zamzam is both frail and resilient at the same time. She badly needs medical attention, but even dispensaries are shut down. Her account calling for more children-centered approaches in times of crisis. Dorcas Wangira, KTN.
Starting off with the latest in the business world, and Kenyans will have to dig deeper into their pockets after the Energy and Regulatory Commission announced higher pump prices for the month of February 2017. The latest price adjustment will now see a litre of super petrol retail at 100 shillings and 27 cents after it rose by 4 shillings and 26 cents. Diesel experienced the steepest rise of 5 shillings and 3 cents and will now retail at 89 shillings and 26 cents per litre. This is the first time in the last 3 years that fuel prices have exceeded the 100 shilling mark in Nairobi, signaling more pain at the pump for motorists and commuters. Kerosene users were not spared either. A litre of paraffin goes up by 3 shillings and 75 cents and will now see users pay 67 shillings and 19 cents per litre. ERC notes that the changes were linked to a rise in global oil prices as well as strengthening of the US dollar. In comparison with last month, the landed cost of super petrol increased by 8.45%, while diesel increased by 12.07% and kerosene increased by 7.44%. The new prices were announced by Pavel Oimeke, who has been named the new acting CEO at the Energy Regulatory Commission to replace engineer Joseph Nganga, who has retired. Of course, tougher times coming ahead for Kenyans. At least 1,200 clearing and forwarding companies will tonight enjoy some sense of relief after the Kenya Revenue Authority backed down on its hard stance of barring logistic companies from conducting operations without a valid license. In a late evening news conference, KRA Commissioner General John Jiraini announced that agents will be permitted to continue with operations up until the agency clears the vetting process before renewing licenses for the 2017 period. Here's the latest on that developing story. A day after union members from the Kenya International Freight Forwarders and Warehouse Association started piling pressure on the Kenya Revenue Authority to fast-track issuance of licenses, the taxman has beaten a hasty retreat.
No one and no one's license has been revoked.
According to KRA, all 2016 licenses were still valid for use by the agents up until the vetting process was completed. According to KRA, prior claims of being denied licenses made by Kifwa were baseless and the vetting process of agents was still underway.
The truth is that they are still operating. There could be people who fear that this process may expose things that may be difficult to explain.
In a statement, the tax authorities note that Custom and Border Control Department has, with effect from January 2017, enhanced due diligence processes in assessing suitability of applicants with a view to assuring their conformity with procedural, legal and constitutional requirements.
Yes.
Kifwa had raised concerns that the delayed renewal of licenses would be a major impediment to their operations as they continue to incur losses by virtue of operating outdated licenses, which prevented them from securing tenders from would-be customers. KRA has so far maintained that the vetting exercise will continue and that the process will be conducted with utmost objectivity and due regard of fairness.
The Revenue Authority is becoming both the judge and the jury.
At least 94% of current license holders have submitted the information required to facilitate the evaluation process. Abi Agina, KTN Business. Let's see how that pans out in the coming days. And as Kenyans joined the rest of the world in marking Valentine's Day, flower sellers are an unhappy lot. They say this year the Lovers' Day has been characterized by low sales as the Nairobi County government declined to award sellers free will to actually set up makeshift tents across the central business district to better reach out to buyers. But despite this, the men did not disappoint as they went all out to get their loved ones a special gift.
Toka saa ile nimeshaingia hapa. Ile customer zimekuja hapa ni chache sana. Na kama ni zamani wangekuwa wamefuruti hapa.
More people are coming to buy. Yeah, it's like people are engaging in buying flowers more.
I'm celebrating this Valentine and I thought it's very wise that I buy something for my wife. She's been very helpful throughout my life.
Something special for my wife. Just want to surprise her.
All right.
Yeah.
So what are you getting for her?
Some lilies, red roses, and yellow roses too. The red for love and yellow for friendship.
Interesting day here being marked across the country as Kenyans continue to celebrate Valentine's Day. And staying in that Valentine mood, as the world over celebrated Cupid's Day, love is in the air. While much of the world has gone the Western way to celebrate Cupid, some have managed to stick to their traditional ways. Our Kwale County reporter Tobias Chanji visited local Digo marriage experts who are making big money teaching the language and ways of love in their community and beyond.
The lessons here are part of the erotic homemaking skills and prowess that one acquires before getting married. The teachings done here target anyone above the age of adolescence, but are usually taught to those about to get married. The teachings include everything from the art of lovemaking to how to look after oneself and make themselves attractive for their lovers. They are under the expert tutelage of one Mwatime Masood Mangome, a local expert on matters marriage.
Mimi mwenyewe nilianza kufichwa kama miezi miwili kwa pori. Nkaanza kukokewa moto, nkaruka moto. Nikiwa na miaka 12.
Being in the forest for training is not easy. She explains how they survived.
Hakuna nyumba. Tunalala tu porini. Hakuna nyumba hapo.
The lessons given here also come with various condiments, like the essential massage oil that the women are taught to tend their husbands with.
Hii ni karafuu imepondwa. Sasa huwa nachukua hii naongeza na marashi, huwa namkanda sasa, namkanda mwili wake, akiamka asubuhi yuko sawa.
The lessons do not come cheap. One has to part with a cool 10,000 shillings for the intensive 2-month course, complete with an internship in the forest. The figure, however, falls to 8,000 if one opts out of the stint in the bush. Men are also not left out. Even men, she says, are also taught on how to stay with their wives. Well, here we also meet 21-year-old Amina Rashid, who received her training at 12 years old. Today, nearly a decade later, she's the one passing on this priceless local knowledge as a trainer.
Porini, nikaruka moto, tukapanda miti, nikaja huku nyumbani nikaanza kufunzwa, nikapewa hivi vitu, na mpaka sasa ndio na mimi nimekuwa mwalimu nafunza wenzangu.
Truly a Valentine not just in the westernized commercial sense, but one that enables customs that have flowed through the ages continue to be passed on in a sustainable way.
It's not about flowers that makes love to blossom, but what one does to the ones they love in privacy counts a lot. Tobias Chanji, KTN Business, Kwale County.
Many thanks there, Tobias Chanji, that interesting report. And Kenya Airways has decried the high airport taxation, saying that taxes affect the airline's revenue. And the national carrier in 2016 reported increased finance costs to 7 billion shillings compared to 4 billion the previous year, pays higher navigation and handling taxes. Currently, Kenya's airport taxes are among the highest at $50 compared to Ethiopia's at almost half that at $25. KQ Chairman and Chief Executive Officer are in talks with KAA and the Kenya Revenue Authority for a possible review of the tax rates.
There is a big issue on taxation on airport tax that we pay here, which does disadvantage us. And that's something that we are looking at and trying to talk to the government to bring down. Our taxation here for each passenger that lands here, if I'm not mistaken, is $50? $50, where if you go via Ethiopia, it's $25 or $20. That is a big issue.
You actually have, if you look at the cabin factors on average in Africa versus international, the international average is in the late 70s, Africa is 60%, meaning that airlines in Africa generally, the cabin, the number of people you are carrying by aircraft are fewer, and that has an impact on profitability because air travel density in Africa is not yet as high, and that has implications on loss of profitability of airlines.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at what's happening in the world of sports. Mercy Wanyama put in a stellar display, netting 36 points as Equity Bank bagged their maiden Kenya Basketball Federation Premier League Championship. Equity defeated KPA in Game 5 of the best-of-5 series, winning the match 73 points to 68 in a game played at the Nyao Stadium Gymnasium to emerge with a 3-2 win of the series.
After Equity Bank pulled the series even on Sunday against KPA, the two teams squared again on Monday night on Game 5 of the best-of-5 series, with the either team seeking a win to be crowned the champions. The Bankers began the match on the front foot, taking a 15-7 lead in the first quarter, forcing KPA to reconsider their strategies. The Dockers came back stronger in the second quarter with more zeal and managed to turn the game around in their favor after netting 21 points while restricting Equity to only 8 points at the break. In the third quarter, the Coastal-based side kept firing, but Equity did not relent as Mercy Wanyama and Hilda Indasi brought them within reach, heading into the final quarter. The final quarter had the fans on their feet as both teams kept pushing each other, seeking to kill the game. That, however, was not going to be the case. With the Equity leading the match with 67 points, Felma Sadiambo made 2 free throws to tie the game and send the match into extra time. In added time, KPA lacked answers to Equity's questions as the Bankers made 10 points to KPA's 5 to emerge as the champions.
We've been working so hard, and this was our aim for us to win this league. So yeah, we'll be working together as a team, training hard as usual. Yeah, we deserve it.
We gave ourselves an ultimatum that before 5 years are over, we need to be champions of Kenya League. And here today we are. We are the champions.
KPA, however, blamed their loss on poor officiating of the match.
It's very difficult to play against a referee who is a coach at the same time he's a referee. So to me, with my experience in basketball, I've never ever lost a 10-point lead in a game. Whatever the referee were doing, I'm just not happy.
Mercy Wanyama, who is the sister to Tottenham's Victor Wanyama, was named the most valuable player, while Hilda Indasi was named as the overall top point scorer. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
The MVP, Mercy Wanyama, sister to Victor Wanyama and McDonald Mariga, a real sporting family. In football, Thika Stadium is getting a facelift ready for the new 2017 Kenyan Premier League season. The 5,000 capacity stadium will be doubled in the seating capacity. We caught up with the county executive in charge of sports, Marshall Waikenda, and asked about his plans for 2017. Hassan Juma has the details.
Thika grounds in Kiambu County can only accommodate 5,000 fans. However, work is in progress to ensure that the ground that is home to Kenya Premier League side Thika United hosts over 10,000 fans after the facelift.
When the county governments came in place, we found a very dilapidated structure and the infrastructure. It needed a lot of work. So one of the first things we did is that we've been leveling the field, grading it, removing all the termites that were there before.
However, when Thika United was demoted from the top tier league, frantic efforts were made behind the scenes to ensure that the club regains its top tier status. And why not? After all, it's one of the loved and followed clubs within this region.
Tuliongea na watu wa FKF, kutoka kwa president, kushuka hata kwa chairman wa Badea, kuwaambia wa reconsider hiyo decision na wasaidia timu zetu za Kiambu.
And with the Football Kenya Federation grappling with missing out of hosting the Chan Championships next year, Waikenda believes his county can come to FKF's aid.
I would like FKF to consider Kiambu County and consider Thika Stadium because we have Thika Stadium itself. Additionally, we're trying to see how we can be able to renovate this stadium as it is. One of the Governor Kabogo's goals for this stadium, we want to do AstroTurf, Tartan and AstroTurf, so that now we can be able to host a majority of tournaments here within the stadium.
The county has other plans lined up and they believe it is just a matter of time before Kiambu County becomes a sporting hub.
By prioritizing infrastructure, we'll have facilities that any tournament that's happening in Nairobi, they can be able to consider the feeder tournaments in Kiambu, or why not even host it in Kiambu, and then Nairobi can be able to have the feeder tournaments as well.
Thika United got a lifeline as they were readmitted back to the top tier league, the Kenya Premier League, and it's rush against time here at the Thika Stadium as workers prepare the grounds ready for inspection before the beginning of the 2017 season. Reporting for KTN News from the Thika Stadium, I'm Hassan Juma.
Our Sports Journalists Association of Kenya Coach of the Month award received a major boost as Fidelity Insurance increased the sponsorship package for the award to 1.365 million shillings. Fidelity Managing Director Matthew Koech touted their desire to develop talent throughout the country by motivating coaches as the reason the insurance firm decided to increase their cash award to 75,000 shillings, up from the initial 50,000.
Some of our well-known athletes today are in football, and they're playing in the highest leagues in the world, and the talent must be identified early. And it is this effort that we are supporting as Fidelity to help identify talent and to be able to grow football in Kenya and in East Africa region, which is at the moment not as competitive as, say, other parts of Africa.
Federations to up their game. So I think having done this,
they should support such ventures and even join us to uplift the standards of coaching in this country, and even the Player of the Month award.
All right, before we wrap up KTN Prime tonight, we had asked, a big Q. Should the executive give in to pressure to release the Doctors Union officials? Let's read some of what you're saying tonight. Kennedy Wanyoike, executive doesn't jail anybody. It's the work of the judiciary to jail or to release.
Davis Magare says it is impossible due to the fact that judiciary is independent and the government cannot interfere. Beryl says on Twitter it is not about giving in to pressure, but doing the right thing and using the law for good. That contempt of court sentence was a setup. One here from Michael Black says this whole health debate is too one-sided. Dogs talking too much. Many thanks for participating in our big question tonight and for joining us on KTN Prime. I'm Ben Kitili for all of us here at KTN News. Thanks for watching. Good night.
I'm Sophia Wanuna. Good night.